In this video, I want to share with you a new trend that I've seen emerging in marriage green card cases, specifically during the interviews for marriage green cards. I have not seen very much discussion about this topic on the internet. So I want to share it with you so that you're not caught off guard when you appear for your interview. And that topic is of that the in-person interviews being conducted by USCIS officers are much more sophisticated. It's clear they've had more training and that their questions are a lot sharper and focused than I've ever seen before. So let's discuss that. First, let's start with some other recent trends. As I've discussed in other videos, you have to watch out for your social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and what you put there, because those are ripe topics for questions at your interview. So be careful about that. I have a video on that you could watch. Also, the public charge regulations, which finally look like they're going to be permanently part of the green card process, have just recently went into effect, and everyone has to get ready for them. That's going to change the nature of the information you provide to government, and it's going to add a whole host of new questions that you're going to need to be prepared for. I've also noticed some individuals have talked about quick approvals for green cards. And I believe that that discussion is a little misleading because those quick approvals have mainly come forward because of the COVID period that we went through and that the government's been trying to catch up. But they've been limited to certain types of cases. And to the extent that they've been part of the marriage green card process, they've been just the first step because they can now individuals will have to come back. Many individuals, those who have been married less than 2 years, will have to come back for a more in-depth green card interview at some later point in time. So I believe some of that discussion has been misleading, and that leads into the discussion for today. That questionings at green card interviews for married couples, I believe, has intensified, but not in a direct way. It's very subtle. It's almost like they've been trained how to expand certain questions to draw out certain information. So, in terms of interviews, these in-depth interviews, there's three things that officers are trying to do. The first has always been there. They're trying to verify the details that you've listed in the application. And the second thing that they're really trying to do, which has always been part of the process, is that they're trying to they're trying to determine the credibility of the immigrant seeking a green card. Is this a real marriage? But it's the third point that I really believe has really become more intensified and focused. And that's that I believe that they're now trying to discover new information relevant to the application, which is not obvious from the face of the application. Has that always been a part of the green card interview process? Yes, but has never been as focused as I have seen it recently. It seems as if in the past, when they've suspected someone of fraud, they've always set up a second interview where they separate the couple and they really ask them a lot of questions. But it seems like they're trying to draw out more information in the first interview that in the past might not have been asked until the second interview. Not a lot, just a few. Just so to then get a feeler like, is there any reason that we need to set up that second interview? In other words, the government is looking more deeply into whether individuals have committed marriage fraud. Now, I don't believe anybody watching this video has committed fraud. And if you have, you can turn it off because this advice really isn't for you. But the problem is that because they're asking these types of questions, poor preparation will lead you to make mistakes, and then you're going to have to go through the entire ordeal of a second interview, and maybe even because the preparation is not good enough, you will be denied. And that can occur whether or not an individual going forward, a couple going forward, has the help of a legal assistant, a paralegal, a notario, or even a lawyer. As an appellate lawyer, as someone who gets cases after people have lost, I read a lot of transcripts, I hear a lot of stories, and it's clear that a lot of individuals are not prepared for their interviews. They're not told what they should prepare for. They're not told what kinds of questions they should be thinking about. They're not told about how they might be questioned. For instance, in general, in my experience, I've noticed 4 different personality types during interviews. One, you have the real friendly type of interviewer, someone that almost appears to be like a buddy, very polite to you. Secondly, there's those individuals, those officers who sometimes are a little elderly, but they come off more grandfatherly, more grandmotherly. They sort of take you under their wing. You almost feel like they're guiding you. Then there's those who come off like drill sergeants. They make you feel as if you're a new recruit to the Marines or the Army or the Navy, and they're really drilling you on procedures and questions in a manner that you think is a little heavy-handed. Then fourth, there's those who just come off just prosecutorial. They're question after question after question, and you feel like they're leading you down the pike to a certain place. Now, the reality is they all have the same job description. They just have different personalities. They're all trying to do a job, and that's to make sure that people with fraudulent applications don't win green cards. So my advice is to always be prepared for any type of officer, but respect them, but don't fear them. And you respect them by preparing. Prepare. Don't just, if you've let someone else prepare your application, don't just let it sit at that. You've got to know what kinds of questions are going to be asked in those applications, in the interviews off of those applications, and what you might be asked as a result of your answers, just so that you have a general idea so you can prepare. Now, what I've noticed in this new trend is that there's always been the second part of the I-485. That's the form number for the permanent residence application. The second part of that application has always been what I call red flag questions. You fall short in those areas, boom, you're out. You're going to lose, okay? Or you're going to have a lot of problems winning a green card. The first part has always been seen, in my mind, as more informational. And so a lot of clients may even fill that out on their own and think, oh, well, this is really easy. I know my name, I know my address, and my telephone number. I know those sorts of things. And so they don't take it as seriously as they should. But this is the area where I believe officers have been trained, and they're pulling out details. Not a lot, just enough. They're sliding in. Very slick, smooth operator. No, you don't want me to sing. But they're moving in certain questions so that they can get a clearer picture as to the authenticity of your application. Let me go through a few pages. Page 2 of the application, part 1, asks about people's recent immigration history. And it asks about things like their passports and when they entered and how long they entered. Very, very straightforward. But then it moves into the next part, which starts on page 5 of the application. It's the address history. And the address history may seem very simple, but the question can come up. This is your address, and they look at the old address. So when you first moved together, whose place was that? Was that, was that yours, or was that hers, or was that his? Oh, and who paid rent? And how many rooms were in there? Why'd you guys decide to move? And when did you move? Oh, and did you buy furniture when you moved? Did you buy furniture? Oh, okay. And whose credit card, or how'd you pay for it? Very simple. A couple of questions, 2, 3, boom. But they got an idea as to how you answer it, as to how well you know those issues. Page 6, the application moves into your employment history. Have you earned, how much do you earn, and do you get paid weekly or monthly? Now, some of that information will be in the affidavit of support, but not the pay, not when you get paid. And so they can probe that. So what are your working hours? Oh, what time do you leave the house? Oh, you leave early in the morning. So how do you guys divide up the house chores? Do you get up, make coffee for them, or oh, have you met your spouse's boss at work? Little things, okay? A question that you might think is almost meaningless, but it does have a meaning because they're probing your knowledge, and real couples will usually know most of this information. And if you don't know them, and you're starting to stall, it's going to cast doubt in the officer's mind as to whether your marriage is legitimate. Page 7 asks for him from in part 4. It asks for information about the parents. Okay, you get the names. That's basic. But what I've seen them now do is how did you guys meet? And then when did you tell your parents about him or her? And have you met the other person's parents? No, those are questions that usually would come later. But a few of those questions can slid in. So where did you meet his or her parents at? Did they approve of you getting married? Did they approve of you dating this person? Just a few of those questions. Not very many. Just one or two. They slide them in. Boom. But those are really red flag questions that have traditionally been reserved for the next part of the interview. And now they're coming up a little sooner. Not the whole entirety, but just enough for the government officer to figure things out. Are these individuals really telling me the truth? On page 8, in part 5, they ask for information about your marital history. And this is where they're really going to probe. Like, how did you meet? Oh, you guys met online? Oh, when was the first time you met in person? Or, oh, your cousin introduced him. What's your cousin's name? And how soon after did you start dating? Or who proposed? Or where'd they propose? Or, instance like, who bought the wedding rings? And at the marriage, who showed up? Did you have cousins or anybody? And they're going to have pictures. You may bring pictures to the internet, flipping through them, and they might be asking a couple of questions like that as they're flipping through the marriage pictures. Again, very slick, very smooth, very nonchalant. You might not even feel that they're probing deeper. And when I first saw officers starting to do this in interviews, it was fascinating because I could see just a few questions here and a few questions there, a few questions here, and it's like, oh, they've really been trained. These folks are much more sophisticated nowadays than they were before in terms of looking for indicators, other facts outside the application, but that are really connected to the application that will give them an idea of whether or not you're actually telling them the truth. Then the last section, page 9, part 6, they ask about your children. Now, you may not have any children, but they matter. So you have plans to have children. And if you do have children, do they live with you now? How are the children doing? Do you interact with the children? What kinds of things do you do with the children? Any special events that you take them to, or any teams? 1, 2, 3 questions. And not all of these questions will be asked in the same interview. They might only probe a couple of those sections. But that's all, I believe, strategic on their part, because they're just asking to get a little more out of you, to see how you react, to see if they shake you up, if you get nervous, how quickly you answer, how smoothly you answer, how well you know your answers. This is a new trend. And I believe this trend is only going to be amplified in future years. And it's something that individuals have to get ready for. And the best way you get ready for it, of course, is to get ready, to prepare. So who's ever helping you, whether it's a non-attorney assistant, or it's an attorney, or it's someone in the attorney's office, or you're doing it on your own, you really need to get a handle on preparation. Don't think preparation is something you don't need to do just because you have a real marriage and so you have nothing to worry about. No, you could cause yourself a lot of problems, even with real marriages. I've had to fight more than my share of cases for people that have come to me after they've lost, but they have a real marriage. So don't take that chance. Just prepare. It's always better, as my mother often said, to be safe rather than sorry. And you do that by preparing. Now, as many of these questions are connected to what I call the red flag questions, the red flag inquiries that come up in a second interview, I have a checklist. I have a guide that you can download for free, and I'll put it inside the description of this video so that you can, and at the end of this video, so that you can download this and take it. And although those are red flag questions, and although in the first interview you will only be asked a few, it's much better to study that list, at least get an overview of things you might be asked so that you're prepared to answer them if those kinds of questions come up. So take me up on that. It's free, a free guide. Go ahead. But I do encourage you to prepare. Do not buy the fact that, well, some people are getting approved without an interview and then just sort of just drift through the process. Don't do that. Prepare. Always prepare. And then when you're looking at the types of officers, prepare for the worst type of officer, the one that's really going to hammer and question you and make you feel uncomfortable. You want to be fully prepared because that interview is crucial to your long-term happiness with the person you love. With that, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to wish you the best of luck at your interview. And may you find success at your interview. May you live a good life, a great life with the person you love. And don't forget to apply for citizenship as soon as you're eligible. Take care. Bye. Thanks for watching. Know someone who might be interested in this video? Then please take a moment to like and share it with them. Also, if you would like more videos on immigration, just click on the subscribe button. And here's a little bonus, a short guide that you can download for free by clicking on the link on the description box or the square-shaped image. Plus, if you have ideas for videos you'd like to see, write a short comment below or feel free to contact me at carlos@VitaraImmigrationLaw.com. My name is Carlos Vitara. I appreciate your time and hopefully we'll be talking again very, very soon.